WhatsApp won't stay in India if it is made to break encryption of messages. The messaging service platform told the Delhi High Court in a case challenging the IT rules. The advocate appearing in the Delhi High Court on behalf of WhatsApp told the court that people use the platform due to the privacy it offers and assures, and also because messages are encrypted end to end. Now, the remarks were made as the Delhi High Court was in fact hearing petitions by WhatsApp and its parent company Meta challenging the 2021 IT or the information technology rules for social media intermediaries. WhatsApp as well as Facebook have challenged the Rule 4 Part 2 of the IT rules. The rule dictates that a social media intermediary provide messaging service shall enable identification of the first originator of the information, as may be required by either a judicial order or a competent authority. Now, meanwhile, the lawyers appearing for the central government had argued that the rule was significant when objectionable content is spread on platforms in cases such as those of communal violence. All in all, both centre as well as the lawyers for Meta and WhatsApp are at loggerheads. Court is currently hearing the matter. To discuss further India's privacy rules, which the Delhi High Court has said also have some limitations, we have Nikhil Pava, founder Media Nama, joining us. Also with us is Kanish Gaur, CEO of India Future Foundation. I want to come to you first, Nikhil. Thank you very much for taking time out, the two of you. What are we making of the arguments that WhatsApp advocate has put out in the court? He says clearly that we are trusted with the privacy of our customers, who believe that every message they send will not be read into, will be encrypted, and their privacy would remain intact. In fact, they take pride and have put out full-page advertisements on the kind of privacy that WhatsApp offers. Court and is hearing the matter, of course, so there's nothing more to what will happen from the court. But what are you making of those preliminary arguments for now?
Well, frankly, I think WhatsApp is absolutely correct in the sense, if they have to break end-to-end encryption in India, they will have to break it globally. You can't do a separate sort of product for a separate country, because effectively it's you can message anyone across the world today because WhatsApp works the same way across the world. It also means that if they have to break it specifically for a particular country, then the messages coming in will not be encrypted. That impacts the privacy of people messaging in. But technically, they can't do it separately for one country. I also think that WhatsApp is in the right over here because, frankly, there is a question of proportionality. You can't risk, the message, the privacy, the safety of communication between two individuals. Let's say between a journalist and their source, between, let's say, parents and their kids, between even people who are in security agencies prefer to use end-to-end encrypted platforms because their communications are safe, right? So you can't basically create exceptions for certain messages because it breaks the technology that enables, the communication to be safe.
But
and frankly,
Nikhil,
one important
right.
point: you can't make us, as citizens of this country, you can't make us more secure by making everyone vulnerable. So it's a question of proportionality here.
All right. But, one of the arguments, of course, of the central government, Krishna, also is that how do we really find who is the person who's responsible for sending that one fake message, that one communal message that ends up hurting a lot of people? And that argument emanates from the kind of lynchings that India saw back in 2014 and 15, which is when the entire case started unfolding, and it has been since then. The arguments from both sides are, one side, of course, here in this case, WhatsApp saying that we are responsible for privacy of our people, of our audience, of the people, of our consumers. Central government saying, how do you really expect us to tame on these false messages, on these messages that end up spreading hatred, if we don't really know who's the first originator?
Right, and in a sense, WhatsApp's ability to tag certain messages has forwarded many times. So sort of tells people that this is something that's been being passed from hand to hand. WhatsApp has been taking measures on its platform to sort of alert people as to what kind of messages they're receiving and how to trust them or not trust them, just to alert them, if to intimate them that this is not a one person message that's been sent to you, this has been forwarded across the board, so there's a good chance that might not be any truth to it, that kind of a situation. But of course, here the only analogy I can think of is, do you throw the baby out with the bath water? Yes, of course, you need to throw the bath water out, but you're going to throw the baby along with it as well. Because, and in that sense, I tend to agree with Nikhil in the fact that, this privacy seems to be like the basic trade secret with which, WhatsApp is operating.
Okay.
And for people, for example, if messages between you and me, anybody can break into it and start reading them. Or for the matter, you and your spouse, or you and your mother, would you still trust your messaging platform?
All right, fair argument. Absolutely. Kanishk, are we throwing the baby out with the bath water? Does it look like to you, from what the WhatsApp advocates said today, that they may look to exit India as a market? They have a substantial market share here, about 400 million Indian customers.
See, WhatsApp is right. So for one country, they can't make an exception. Breaking a gold standard of encryption, which is the Diffie-Hellman algorithm, which is not just WhatsApp follows, but other platforms like Signal and Telegram also follow. So making exceptions for one country specific to the IT rules, I don't think so that's the right way to move forward. Particularly when it comes to operating with law enforcement agencies, there are mechanisms in terms of sharing metadata, in terms of providing access to law enforcement in the name of national security. But the whole privacy of the country can't be put at risk, especially in the case when you're trying to bring out a data protection law, a Digital India Act. You're asking a platform to break its gold standard on encryption and share information about people. So that's equivalent to doing snooping officially. So I don't think so that's the right way to move forward, particularly asking platforms to break encryption or bringing out rules where they would want a company to make exception, where the whole world is moving towards data governance, protection, and privacy. If WhatsApp does it in India, similar requests will come to them from other countries as well in terms of sharing this information. So there could be other mechanisms that could be looked forward to, but particularly making exception in one country, I don't think so. That's the right way to do it. And companies do take such calls where they decide to move out of specific countries if they believe that the standards and the policies don't match their global policies which are aligned, right? So a lot of times we've seen companies have moved out of specific countries because they believe certain rules have been enforced on them, or they don't find the values matching the way they want the business to operate, right? We saw a lot of Chinese government influence as well in terms of pushing certain platforms, and a lot of platforms decided not to work in China. So I think best is to make certain amendments in the I2 rules, particularly on these specific sections, to ensure there is greater transparency, trust, and if law enforcement want information in the name of national security, they can seek metadata, or they can use IT rules to invoke specific sections. When it comes to communal harm and misharmony which is happening, I think WhatsApp has started flagging messages which cause all of this civil unrest.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and those could be shut down.
Nikhil, at this stage, the only thing I can ask you is this: is WhatsApp having a BBM or BlackBerry Messenger moment in India?
It's been having it for a while, Krishna, because the government had been informed multiple times that end-to-end encryption cannot be broken, that it's a risk to privacy, not just by WhatsApp, but also by civil society. And the IT rules came out in 2021, but they'd been informed from 2019 onwards. So this is despite being informed about this, that government passed these rules. And I think WhatsApp is well within their rights to challenge these rules, and I'm glad they did it. But there's one thing that happened a couple of days ago, which you should know, Krishna, that the US has passed this surveillance law called RISA, which extends surveillance, extraterritorial surveillance via US companies. So, whether we're using email from US companies or we're using messaging from US companies, all of those can be snooped upon under US law without a warrant. End-to-end encryption is the only technology that prevents the US government from snooping on our messaging and communication. Everything else can be snooped upon. So I think we need to use end-to-end encryption doesn't just protect us from surveillance in India, and as a country, we need to bring about surveillance reform, but it also protects us from surveillance from other countries.
Okay. Nikhil, just to play the devil's advocate here, what the Delhi High Court said in its statement, and one of the remarks that it made while hearing the case was no freedom is absolute. That includes right to privacy. That includes, in fact, all the freedoms, all the fundamental rights that we enjoy as Indians. None of them are absolute. So what should make one think that we can do what we want, we can spread the kind of messages we want, the fake messages, the messages that have the ability to influence political decisions or to tar someone's reputation or to lead to a lynching or a killing? What gives us the right to spread all those messages without an intervention from the government, or without letting the government know that we in fact are the first originators of that message?
So I think we have to take the path of least damage in a sense over here, right? And therefore, are there other mechanisms for identifying who has sent those messages? It's not that what you have to break into encryption, and that's the only way to find someone. You can go from message to message to message to lead to the first originator. Quite often, even on social media, there are enough politicians who spread hate speech. What is the history of the Indian government when it comes to acting on them? It doesn't, right? I mean, there are in multiple instances, especially during elections, where politicians publicly create hatred. Where is a case filed against them? Riots are normally started by political actors. The police needs to act on ground to prevent violence. If there is misinformation, disinformation, or communal hatred being spread on WhatsApp, it's also being spread on other platforms, many of them publicly, many of them by leaders of this country. Let's be realistic over here, right? The purpose here is to basically be able to do surveillance of WhatsApp, not to protect people.
All right,
and I have one important thing. The court, if I would ask the court, where is the surveillance reform in this country? Where is it where security agencies are restricted from snooping on politicians, on journalists? How is the Indian government use Pegasus against Indian citizens? Where is restriction on them on violating our privacy? The data protection law today exempts the government of India from provisions of the law. So citizens basically have no protection against surveillance from the government, but the government wants to go to court to basically harm our privacy. That's what's going on in this country.
All right, fair enough. That is, of course, what Nikhil Pawar's views are on the said matter. But before I move on, let me also quickly get in Kanishk back into the conversation. Kanishk, you heard Nikhil, you also heard Krishna, and we heard you. So you're of the opinion, of course, that there are better ways of working around this as opposed to asking WhatsApp to make an exception for India and to start decrypting, or to ensure that the encryption end-to-end does not stay as it is at the moment. What are these measures? What can WhatsApp do to prevent misuse of its platform?
Introducing backdoors is definitely not the way. What the NSO group did, and WhatsApp and Meta sued them, because NSO was trying to introduce a zero-click backdoor, and governments were using it for snooping it against the citizens of the country. Now, if rule what the current government comes out with, this will officially allow them to get into anyone's device. That's not the right way to do. The best way could be sharing of metadata, sharing of intelligence, flagging of numbers, more of partnership between the government and the civil society, as well as looking at law enforcement agencies to work together with Meta to ensure there is more safety, more trust, and flagging of these. Like, there is a rule where accordingly they share information of numbers which they have been logged or numbers which have been reported. So if they start tracking at metadata, they can easily find out who are the first originator of the message. So breaking end-to-end encryption, there could be alternate measures which could be adopted. The law enforcement rules which are typically followed by law enforcement agencies in Europe is they ask for metadata. They seek access to metadata, and they try and make sense through metadata, looking at investigations. But backdoor is something which is completely not acceptable at this point of time. So
all right.
Continuously tracking and monitoring groups, platforms, or individuals who are doing hate speech or spreading community misharmony. Metadata is the best way I would look at doing analysis and making sense out of.
Right.
And because these people are not just on one platform, but they are on multiple platforms, right? So making
Right.
sense out of all of that data.
Absolutely.
And doing investigation.
Metadata is one of the options, Kanish Gaur, Nikhil Power. Metadata, of course, is one of the options through which WhatsApp can perhaps mitigate and decide on to what extent it wants to give information of its customers to the government. But remember, at the moment, Delhi High Court is in fact hearing that petition, that plea which has been filed by WhatsApp challenging Rule 4, Part 2 of the IT Rules 2021, which makes it incumbent on an intermediary, a social media intermediary such as WhatsApp, to furnish data of the first person who has made or typed a message, the first originator of the message. WhatsApp is currently challenging that rule, and that order will of course come in later. The Delhi High Court is currently hearing that petition. It has now been slated for August, which is when we're going to get more updates on that matter.